maybe it's nighttime for you. I don't know. Chances are you're tuning in from a late night scroll, or maybe you're one of the people over here on the eastern part of the Atlantic Ocean, somewhere in Europe or in the Middle East, and you're like me, where it's bright, it's sunny, it's a beautiful day. But either way, we're going to talk a little bit today about caffeine, caffeine and the ADHD nervous system. Now, let's get a couple of things out of the way. Number one, uh, ADHD is not disordered, so we're not going to talk about this as though you are something that is wrong or broken, that your nervous system or your brain is messed up and that you need to fix it. And number two, we are not going to say that caffeine is inherently good or evil. It is simply a tool, a chemical, a compound that affects us. So we're going to learn a little bit more about what it is, why it works, and why maybe it doesn't work so well for us. But I'm enjoying my favorite caffeinated beverage. I would say as of late, it's not always been my thing, but right now I'm enjoying a matcha latte. So this is a little bit of coconut milk, a tiny bit of honey, some raw full leaf stevia, and I don't know, about 3 grams of matcha powder. So let's jump in. Number one, I think we need to get a really clear understanding that ADHD is not one thing. There's not one exact nervous system. There's not one exact archetype. We're talking about a wide spectrum of neurodivergent people, people that have very, very different nervous systems, as well as very different internal organs, internal processing systems, people that have different types of backgrounds, genetic backgrounds, people that have different types of traumas. So we're all very unique and very different. And that's why we can't say that caffeine is exactly one thing for us or not, because your background, your genetics, your history, your life experience could be very, very different than mine. Now, let's talk about what caffeine is and what it does. Caffeine, without getting too sciencey about it, because I'm not a scientist, is essentially a compound that, when ingested, it goes into the brain, into the nervous system, and it blocks the receptors for adenosine. Okay, adenosine is a compound that our body produces over time while we're awake, that basically says to the body that we are tired, we are fatigued, we have been using energy, we have been awake, and at some point in time when there's a peak amount of adenosine, it signals to the body that we need to go to sleep. So ideally, you're getting up sometime early in the morning, you're getting some sunshine in your eyes, you're engaging in the normal circadian rhythm, and then you're going about your day. The adenosine stacked over time, and then at nighttime, ideally, once the blue light is gone from the sun, that signals to the melatonin production in the pineal gland, and it says to your body, hey, let's slow down, let's go to sleep. Now, caffeine can short circuit that, because what it does is it blocks those receptors. If you can imagine adenosine and the adenosine receptors as being like a lock and a key, then caffeine sneaks into the adenosine receptors in the brain, fills it so that the adenosine cannot occupy it. So it blocks that signal. Now let's get very clear. Caffeine does not give you energy. Okay, I'm going to say that one more time. Caffeine does not give you energy. Caffeine is not like fuel. It's not calories. It's not some sort of magic concoction that somehow increases the fire in your system that makes you go faster. All it does is it tells your system that you're not tired temporarily, because the adenosine is still stacking. The adenosine is still producing based on what you're doing, what you're up to, and how you're going about your day. So at some point in time, that caffeine is going to wear off. It's going to be processed. It's processed through the liver, and it gets excreted as different byproducts. And at some point in time, those adenosine receptors are going to just slam into or be slammed by the adenosine compound. And then you're going to feel super fatigued, right? So that's why we probably often feel this, oh, I feel excited, alert, ready to go. And then I crash, and I crash hard. And that's usually where we reach out for some more caffeine. So that's really good matcha. Um, Now, why is this appealing to people with ADHD? Okay, there's so many different reasons. Of course, the alertness is great. Why is the alertness great? Well, because we oftentimes have difficulty getting tasks done. We have difficulty focusing. Right? We have a lower baseline amount of dopamine, which means that we are going to seek out things that help to give us dopamine. And caffeine indirectly stimulates dopamine production. Okay, so it's going to make us feel better. Low dopamine levels is associated with fatigue, depression, just the inability to get moving and get going. So if we can get something that gives us temporarily some dopamine, then it can get us moving in the right direction. That is, if we have a direction to move in. And it will also help with focus, because what it can do is it can give us that alertness, that clarity, and that stimulation to be able to pour ourselves into a task, right? Now, that's all good to a degree. But where we get into trouble is when we start chasing the high, chasing the dopamine, chasing the stimulation. Because if we really aren't interested in a task, it's going to be really hard to focus. And if we can't focus, we're not going to get it done. We're going to get into this shame spiral of, why can't I get these things done? Why can't I stay focused? And that's where we start to reach out to something outside of us to try to plug in the gap, right? To fill in the gap. Okay, so there's this idea that stimulants are very powerful for helping produce dopamine, which helps us to be more productive. And caffeine is not the best at doing that. There are more precise drugs that are being used. Of course, that's where the stimulant category of ADHD medication comes in. I don't take medication. I do not want to take medication. I'm not interested in medication. I'd rather just honor who I am and my nervous system and how I'm built. But yes, theoretically, these medications can help us to focus. It shifts something in the brain, gives us the stimulants that we need. Basically, it's a type of methamphetamine. And look, people have great success stories with it. I'm not doubting that. I think it can be useful, but I'm just not particularly interested in it. So, yes, stimulants theoretically can help us, and there is a big cost, right? So, benefits: we've got the focus, we've got the alertness, we've got the getting past maybe sleep fatigue and things like that. But let's talk about some of the costs that are associated with it. Okay, caffeine stimulates cortisol production and adrenaline. Cortisol and adrenaline are massive hormones or compounds that lead to and create anxiety and stress. Now, stress is a good thing at a certain level. You need enough stress in order to be able to move forward, to take the action that you need to do. You have to be stressed out a certain amount in order for you to do the things that are required for you to live a better life, to take care of yourself, to take care of your family. But living in a perpetual state of high stress, drinking a lot of caffeine stimulates that high stress levels. That is going to take a toll, right? That also is going to affect our sleep, because it is difficult to sleep when you have high levels of anxiety. I think about it like this. We have the mind. Let's say we have 4 bodies. We have the spiritual body, we have the mental body, the emotional body, and the physical body. Look, if you're not too big into spirituality, I don't care, because all of the ancient traditions, all of the traditions pretty much everywhere says that there is a spirit or a spiritual body, an energetic body, but you call it just energy if you want. So we've got this energy flowing into this mind, our emotions, and our physical body. Well, if our physical body is loaded with caffeine and cortisol and adrenaline, it's going to affect our emotional state. Our emotions are then probably going to be more towards anxiety, frustration, anger, those stress kind of emotions. That's going to trigger thoughts in our mind that are going to be much more anxiety provoking. Negative thought loops, frustration, things like that. So if your body is loaded with stress chemicals, it's going to create more stressful emotions and thoughts, which, guess what, are going to create more stress compounds in your body. So caffeine can contribute to this loop of, I am feeling stressful, therefore I am thinking stressfully, and therefore I am starting to feel and live in a stressful body once again. Probably going to have a lot of effects on our sleep. Not only the effects of adenosine, which are going to block that our ability to feel tired, which means that we're going to have difficulty falling asleep, but it could also stimulate those stress hormones, which is going to stimulate the anxiety, which is going to stimulate the thinking, which means that we can't shut off our brain, and we are stuck in this fight or flight, freeze, fawn, uh, stress reaction mode. All right, so we're talking about reduced sleep. We're talking about stressful body, stressful thoughts, stress just loop over and over again. So caffeine can give us short-term benefits, but it takes 6 to 8 hours to clear the caffeine out of our system. So if you have coffee or caffeine at a certain time of day, it's going to mess up your sleep. Right. Um, let's talk about this issue around the energy of caffeine. Right, the energy of caffeine, which is like, it is a let's go fire. I want to achieve. I want to accomplish. I want to take. It's like a warrior's drink, right? It's like a warrior's drink, especially coffee. There are other. I mean, there's caffeine in chocolate. There's caffeine in tea. I got my matcha here. It's a little bit different of a balance though, because there's an energy to it. So coffee specifically is like the drink of capitalism, the drink of let's go, let's make some money, let's trade on the stock exchange, let's go with less sleep, let's produce more. And that takes a toll on the body because it doesn't allow us to rest. Now everything has to happen in balance. For every high, you're going to have an equivalent low. Uh, if we're going and pursuing and chasing, then we need to also have time to rest and slow down. This is historically really difficult for us. I mean, I spent most of my life working in a job and a career in the restaurant business where it was go, go, go all the time. And then the only way I knew how to shut down was taking and drinking alcohol, right? Which basically wasn't that I was getting good rest. It's just that I was getting intoxicated enough to where my system shut down and then I could have some sort of semblance of rest. So this whole caffeine thing is really challenging because it gets us stimulated, gets us fired up, but then it's really hard to shut down. I know that there are people who say that they can drink coffee late at night and they can still go to sleep. And that's cool if you believe that you can do that. Maybe you are actually falling asleep, but I'm going to really question, are you getting good quality sleep? Because caffeine can affect the low brainwave states. We're talking theta and delta, which are where your body does the cleaning and the real restorative restful sleep. So you might be able to drink an espresso after dinner at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m., but I don't think that you're actually going to be sleeping very well. In fact, studies are showing that you're probably more likely getting less into that dream-like REM sleep, and you're probably waking up more frequently. So the other costs, I mean, I could go on and on and on, but basically these stimulants put us in a perpetual state of stimulation, which means that it's difficult to slow down and shut down, which means that we can't rest. And guess what? The number one contributing factor to the quality of your life with ADHD is sleep. Quality sleep is the fastest, highest leverage change that you can make. The one thing that you can shift in your life to make the biggest difference is quality sleep. But if you're drinking caffeine all the time, all day long, all night long, you're not going to be able to sleep very well. So, okay, cool. We've got some of the theories or the ideas about what this is and how this works. What are we going to do about it? Because look, I'm drinking caffeine right now. I think it's very supportive. I think it's very helpful, but it is a tool. So how are we going to use this tool? Well, caffeine in moderation, like anything, can be very healthy. I mean, there's this expression that the poison is in the dose, right? So it's not about the substance itself, it's about how much you're taking, and I would say how we're consuming it. So how we're going to use caffeine responsibly. Number one, don't drink caffeine within 90 minutes of waking up because it's pretty much useless. You theoretically should have cleared most of the adenosine from your system during sleep, so you don't have any adenosine to block from your receptors, so you're really not going to get much of a benefit from it. If you want to learn more about that, go look into Dr. Andrew Huberman. He talks about this on his podcast. It's really quite helpful to learn about the science of it. Okay, number two, I would have a cutoff period where you do not consume caffeine past a certain time of day. Now, for me, this is about 3 p.m. because if it's a 6 to 8 hour window to clear the caffeine out of your system, then I want to make sure that by 9, 10, 11 o'clock, the caffeine is almost completely gone or completely gone so that I can have a nice bit of sleep. So what I want to do is create a cutoff and just say that I do not consume caffeine past this time of day. If you have difficulty remembering what time of day, or you have difficulty holding yourself accountable, put it up on a sticky note in your kitchen or somewhere where the coffee machine is or where your usual caffeine source is, and just slap it there and keep it there so it reminds you. Visual reminders are perfect for ADHD nervous system. Now, what I want to talk about next is what kinds of caffeine, the quality of caffeine, because not all caffeine is equal. Yes, it is a chemical compound, but it is in different sources and different concentrations in these different sources. There's different energies, there's different qualities to it. So coffee for me is the most fierce, the most intense, the most capitalistic driven warrior, go, go, go. I don't care how you feel, just get it done, drink. I don't drink coffee anymore. I would say maybe once every 3 months, I'll have a cup of coffee, but I know the price of it. And why I know the price of it is because I've completely cleared coffee out of my system. And then I reintroduced it 30 days later and I felt my body. This is really great to do with anything and any food, any substance. It's really good to be able to cut it out for 30 days. We'll talk about that in a different live video about how you actually successfully cut these things out, because I know it's not so easy. Just saying, quit smoking for 30 days, right? It's a whole other story. But once you consume it after having had it off for 30 days, then you can feel the effects on the body. Michael Pollan, who's a great writer, talks about his experience where he actually went 90 days without caffeine, had a cappuccino in the park in New York, and he says it was like a psychedelic experience. It's because he went for so long not knowing what it feels like. This drug that has become so legal and ubiquitous and socially accepted, that when he actually reintroduced it after such a long break, it was an intense trip. Okay. So I know how I feel after coffee. I feel wired. I feel overstimulated. I feel really fatigued within like an hour and a half afterwards. I don't like the way I feel. I get jittery. I get uncomfortable. So for me, it's not worth it. Now, I prefer tea. Tea is really nice because it has caffeine, but it also has L-theanine. This is an amino acid that has an effect on the system that starts to stimulate GABA production. GABA is a compound in the brain that basically helps with happiness and feeling good. It also balances out the jittery, intense aspect of the caffeine, and so you get a much more smooth buzz, let's say. So this matcha latte that I'm drinking, though it has a lot more caffeine than just green tea, the nice thing about it is that it's balanced with GABA, and so I have a positive, uplifted mood. I have the focus from caffeine, but I don't have a hard crash, and I don't have an intense peak, right? It's not riding a roller coaster. It's much smoother and much more relaxed. Even just drinking black tea, pu'er tea, whatever, those things are going to be even better because you still get a little bit of the benefit, but it's not nearly as intense. So the highs are not so high, the lows are not so low. I also love drinking chocolate, cacao, cocoa. It's really nice because you've got not only caffeine, but you've got theobromine. Theobromine is a stimulant related to the caffeine family. However, it's very different on how it affects us, and it also uplifts your mood, right? That's why so many people love chocolate, is because it actually makes you feel better, feel happier. So for me, I'll take drinking chocolate any day of the week, really. Again, I keep it before my afternoon window. I like to have that drinking chocolate because it's warm. I put some coconut milk or I put some like local raw dairy in it, and I feel this nourishing, kind of nurturing aspect to it. It's got this very loving feeling. It reminds me of when I was a kid and my mom would make me hot chocolate. So there's definitely this kind of like warming, nourishing vibe to it. And so that's why I like to get just a little bit of stimulation from the caffeine in hot chocolate. So I recommend that you choose the type of caffeine that works best for you. I'm going to say, if you have ADHD, say no to any energy drinks, any highly refined artificial synthetics, no stimulation pills, things like that. I think it's best to get it from plants, and I think it's best to get it from plants that have the right energy for what you want to do or how you want to be. Again, that's why I prefer matcha, green tea, black tea, that type of thing. Now, let's talk about moderation. For me, I like to have one caffeinated beverage earlier in the day, probably 90 minutes to 120 minutes after I wake up. I have it right before I'm focusing or doing something like this where I want to be more focused, more present. So I use the benefits of it for my ADHD nervous system. But then I want to be done with it for the rest of the day. Maximum, I'm going to have 2 caffeinated beverages, but I'm going to make sure that my last one is no later than 3 p.m. so that it does not affect my sleep quality. Okay. Now, it can be hard at times when we're in those low dopamine phases or we're cramming or having to get a lot of shit done that we need to seek out more dopamine and seek out more stimulation. So this is where you want to use things instead of caffeine. So like exercise gets you energized, gets you those endorphins, helps you feeling better, helps you feel stronger and more confident. After I finish with this, I'm going to go upstairs and I just got some new rings to do some calisthenics. So I'm going to get some exercise to get that energy flowing before I do a little bit more focused work. Go out and take a walk. Get the sunshine in your eyes, right? Get outside, get off of the screens. The screens are very stimulating, but not in a healthy way. Okay. Um, get an accountability system or create an accountability system. I really encourage you to either uh, write up notes where your coffee sources or your caffeine sources are, and that says like, hey, no caffeine after this time. I only drink 2 drinks per day, or I only drink 1 drink per day, and that's a reminder to you of who you are and that identity of I am somebody who uses caffeine well and caffeine responsibly, and therefore I'm not going to overdo it. You can also get apps. There's ways to track things. You can have a little checklist or a checkbox. You can have ADHD does so much better with pen and paper. So have a piece of paper in your pocket or a little notebook. And then every day, just have a sheet and have little check boxes for the exact amount of caffeine drinks that you're wanting to drink. And then check them off. And when you're done, guess what? You spent your credit. It's like not having any money. You can't go buy coffee if you don't have any money. So if you spent all of your credits for that day, you're not going to be able to use it. Of course, you can also get other people to support you in holding you accountable. Reach out to a friend, somebody who you know would be beneficial to speak to, who maybe would be open to helping keep you accountable, or you can reach out at some point in time of the day to say, hey, this is how many drinks I've had, and this is, I'm good, I'm done. But just knowing that that person's there watching out for you and kind of checking in on you, right? Keeping you responsible and accountable is going to be very, very beneficial. And yes, I'm glad that you're a very big paper person, because paper is so much better for ADHD nervous system. Paper, and especially paper up on the wall, signs, notes. I mean, I worked in the restaurant industry for so long. We always had big, clear signs like turn the coffee machine off at the end of the night, or fill the water, fill the ice, dump the ice, whatever it was. We had it in big, clear signs because I swear to God, we need it. We can be so easily distracted, which can be a good thing, but it can take us off the mark. So having those external reminders is just like a reminder from your past self as a gift to your present self, so that your future self is going to be grateful for who you are and the decisions that you make. Okay, so last thing about caffeine is, let's see, what is the last thing about caffeine? Uh, I'm going to say that moderation is always going to be the key. You don't need to overdo it, but also you don't have to completely cut it out. If you do have challenges with caffeine, I recommend using things like Lent, Ramadan, dry January, these kind of like regular sober activities or months where you give things up, to use it as a time to let it go so that you can see how it really feels in your body. So then you can make the decision from clarity. Um, at the end of the day, it is a substance that can be supportive for you. It's also one that can really mess things up. There's so much more that I can't even get to in this video. We're already going on 24 minutes, and I think it's best to wrap this up because I've got things to do today. But just remember this, caffeine is very supportive, but what if it's not the caffeine, but how you use it that can make the biggest difference? What if there was a way that you could use caffeine to support you and help you be more effective without suffering tremendous consequences? And if you have any questions, drop them in the comments here on this video or afterwards. I'd love to answer them for you. I think it would be really helpful for me to know what it is that you're looking for, because at the end of the day, I have my own life experience with ADHD, but you have your own unique system, your own unique environment, and it would be helpful to know what would be most supportive for you. I'm going to leave it for now. It is time for me to go about my day. I'm going to go get some exercise, get my body moving. That's a way for me to stimulate my system naturally without the need for caffeine. And until next time, If you have ADHD and you want to live life without substance abuse and without medication, stick around because I'm helping you to learn that by building trust in your brain and in your nervous system, you can actually live life where you honor yourself, honor your nervous system. You don't have to try to fit in and be normal like everyone else. Celebrate the nervous system that you have. And I will see you next time. Subscribe and make sure that you share this with somebody who also might have ADHD who you think could benefit from this. Until then.